In their new book, Obsessed, America's Food Addiction, journalists Mika Brzezinski and Diane Smith talk about a topic that affects so many men and women, but no one really wants to talk about it. We're discussing today obsessions with food. Emmy award-winning TV reporter, anchor, right here from News 8, for 16 years, radio host, president of Diane Smith Media, and author, the legendary Diane Smith joins us here on Connecticut Style.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you here.
It's nice to be here, Teresa.
So, Dan, you wrote this book
Yes.
with your best friend, Mika Brzezinski from Morning Joe. Describe the book to our viewers, if you would.
Well, Mika has, for a long time, has been very concerned about the obesity crisis in America and the fact that 2/3 of all Americans are either overweight or obese. And she talks about it a lot on her show, and it's become sort of a big issue for her. And we wanted to write the story of what's happening in America with food, but we also felt that in order to really make it something that people could relate to, we should write about our own stories with food, that would make it more approachable rather than sounding like preaching about what you should do and what you shouldn't do.
Now, it all started, Dan, after a fairly awkward conversation that you and Mika had on a boat. Tell us what happened.
My husband and I have a small power boat, and Mika and her 2 girls and her husband Jim, who used to be a reporter here at Channel 8, came up for Labor Day, and we were out on this gorgeous Labor Day afternoon and beautiful sunshine and everything. And I turned to her and I said, you know, it's so hard to know what to cook when you come because you've really become the food police. You're always talking about what to eat, what not to eat. I watch you on the air every day and you're always saying, don't eat this, don't eat that. And I said, I don't know what to make. It makes me so self-conscious about what I'm eating. And she looked at me and she said, well, yeah. She said, because you're fat. You're obese.
Well, how did you react? That's a punch in the face moment you referred to it as.
It was, and I really kind of felt like that for a moment. In fact, the boat's not very big, but the girls got as far away from us as they could. They went up in the front with their dad and with my husband. And I thought, how could she say this to me? But then she looked at me and she said, you know, we know each other so well. And I said to her, yeah. I said, and you don't know anything about what it's like to be fat. Look at you, you know, size 2. And she said, I struggle with food every day of my life, and I can't believe you don't know that. She said, I have been obsessed with food since I was a child. And her eyes filled up with tears. And she started telling me about her problems with food. And that's when I thought, how can I get angry with her? She's had the same struggles that I've had. She just doesn't show it.
Now, did you realize there was a problem with your weight and just didn't want to talk about it?
I live in a house with mirrors. I knew there was a problem with my weight. I knew I was overweight, but I think I was in denial about how overweight I was. And I had struggled with my weight all my life. And, you know, when I worked here at Channel 8, I went up and I went down, and there were times when I was thin and there were times when I wasn't so thin, but there's our wedding. I got married when I was working here at Channel 8. That's probably the thinnest I ever was as an adult. And I just could not keep the weight off, no matter what I did. And over the last 10 years, I not only couldn't keep it off, I could not stop gaining weight. And it just kept going up and up and up and up and up. And finally, it was at a point where it was really a health crisis for me. And that's what she said to me. She said, you're going to die. This is going to kill you, and I can't let that happen to you. I love you too much.
And at that point, you both decided to come up with a plan, not only to write this book, but tell us what happened that kind of initiated all the weight loss.
Well, I said to her, after I heard her story about how she struggled with food and how she would gorge and binge and all that, I said to her, you should write a book about that, because she's written a couple of books about her own issues and how she resolved them and how she found a way to get past them. I said, you should do that about food. A couple of weeks later, she called me up and she said, I got us a book contract. We're going to write a book. And I didn't realize she meant
you were involved
we were going to do the book. So she said, but here's the deal. While we're writing this book, you have to promise me you're going to lose 75 pounds. And I thought, okay. And she said, that's the deal. You have to lose 75 pounds before the book comes out.
Wow. And she was offering to pay you for it. She was. Which is a little bit of motivation.
She was. I mean, she said, think of it this way. Think of it as though I'm paying you. She said, because we'll get paid to write the book, and we'll share the advance that we get to write the book, and I want you to use that money to lose weight. Whatever it takes. Get a trainer, get a nutritionist, whatever it takes, use that money to lose weight. And that's what I did. I went out.
Obviously. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I lost 75 pounds, and now I'm looking ahead. I'm thinking I want to lose another 25. But I did. I got a trainer who was really wonderful, who just took me through a really hard time, particularly since it turned out after a few months into this program I needed a new hip. So he helped me get prepared for the hip surgery and then recover from the hip surgery. And I started a diet program with a lot of help from the Hospital of Central Connecticut. They have a program that's an alternative to weight loss surgery, and they've been really wonderful, and it's helped me lose 75 pounds.
Oh, that's just incredible. Now, not only do you both tell your stories, you also kind of discuss the epidemic of obesity in America. It's a huge problem in more ways than one.
It is. I mean, 2/3 of people are overweight or obese, and obesity is one of the biggest drivers of costs in our economy in healthcare, because there are so many issues that are related to obesity. There's the, there's not only heart issues. They're starting to discover now, of course, that diabetes is related to it, and there's so many other things that they are just finding out, like certain types of cancer, liver disease, all tied into obesity. So it's costing us a huge amount of money. It costs us in productivity for employers and employees, and it's also costing us, it's becoming a military issue. 1 out of 4 young people who wants to join the military is too fat to fight, too fat to join the military.
You also speak to some pretty notable people in the book that also kind of struggled with weight loss. We
did, and some of them have had a plan all along and have done really well, and some of them have struggled mightily. We talked to everybody from Chris Christie, who's the governor of New Jersey, and of course everybody knows how overweight he is, and he was being considered, at the time we were working on the book, he was being talked about as a potential vice presidential candidate, and people were saying, he can't be the vice president, he's way too fat. And we talked to him about how, his issue, and he says, people think I'm undisciplined because I'm heavy. He said, do they really think I got where I got in my life, that I became the governor of New Jersey, a kid who was born in Newark and became the governor without having discipline? He said, people have to understand there's a lot more to obesity than willpower. And he was very, very moving to talk to. And then we talked to Jennifer Hudson, who had,
clearly we've seen her weight loss on TV.
Who's done fabulously and who swears by Weight Watchers and says, I found a new way to live.
That's great, Diane. The book is fascinating. I'm 3/4 of the way through with it. Let's put the information up on the screen. You and Mika are going to be at a couple of upcoming book signings, RJ Julia and Madison, Friday, May 10th at 7, and a signing at the New Canaan Library May 11th at 5 p.m. with Mika and her co-host Joe Scarborough. And again, the name of the book is Obsessed, America's Food Addiction and My Own. Thanks so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much.
Okay, up next, I'll head over to the kitchen. We'll get a preview to this year's Cooking for Casa event. But first, take a look at this.